Thanks for listening to the program. I hope you'll support our guests by clicking on the book purchase link in this episode's description. Each purchase helps support local bookstores, and that's always a good thing.
And, for as wonderful as Band of Brothers the series is, the Dick Winters that it portrays is the Dick Winters as how his men saw him. And with these letters, we get a more intimate perspective about how Dick Winters saw himself.
An excerpt from today's guest, who's co-written about the letters and artifacts of Major Dick Winters. Author Jared Frederick is here, and I'll speak with him after this break. This is Point of the Spear. Welcome back. I'm Robert Child. Today's guest is an instructor at Penn State Altoona and a former park ranger at the Gettysburg National Military Park. He's written a number of books, including Dispatches from D-Day and A People's History of the Normandy Invasion. His current book is called Hang Tough, The World War II Letters and Artifacts of Major Dick Winters. And Jared Frederick joins us now. Jared, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We're happy to have you. I want to read a review. This book demonstrates that equal parts of courage and intelligence define Major Winters as a warrior and an exemplary leader of paratroopers. Perhaps we have not seen the last of the books on Dick Winters, but it is unlikely that this one will ever be surpassed. Mark A. Bando, author of 6 books on the 101st Airborne in World War II. Excellent. Excellent, Jared.
Yeah, Mark is an astounding airborne scholar and historian, and he was of great help and assistance to us in this project and some of our other endeavors, and his praise we greatly value.
Yeah, I would think so. This is certainly an amazing book for Band of Brothers fans. How did you get access to the letters of Dick Winters?
The book primarily consists of artifacts and documents that are found within the Dick Winters collection that are on display and stored at the Gettysburg Museum of History in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is curated by my co-author, Eric Dorr. And over the past several years, he has strived to attain as broad a possible selection of Easy Company artifacts, and his Dick Winters items were really the beginning of that. And it's a wonderful collection, and people can go and see these things firsthand that we discuss in the book. And so these items, they can be found in the Gettysburg Museum of History, and that was the root of it all. Eric had read my previous book, which is on the Normandy invasion, and previously I was a park ranger at Gettysburg, and I had become acquainted with him in that fashion, and I was honored, blown away, in fact, that he asked me to partner up with him on this project. Little could I have imagined 20 years ago when Band of Brothers came out that I would have had the opportunity to interact with and analyze Major Winters' artifacts and correspondence in the way that I have. And so it's been quite the journey.
I'll bet. Did Eric know Major Winters?
I don't believe he did know Major Winters, although he's become very close with a number of his friends and associates, and a number of those individuals were really crucial in providing a lot of the insight and documentation that we required for this book.
What kind of, I know there's artifacts besides the letters, what kind of artifacts are in the museum?
In regards to the Dick Winters collection, there's one of his jump uniforms, and it was the jump uniform that he wore during training in England in the spring of 1944. There's his winter overcoat that he wore throughout the conflict. There's his Class A dress uniform that he wore home to Lancaster, Pennsylvania at war's end. And there's an assortment of other artifacts on display of various sizes and types that include his Colt 1911 sidearm, his wallet, his college yearbook, and a broad assortment of never-before-seen photographs.
It's amazing. Now, did Dick Winter's children donate these to the museum? What's the process that they ended up at the museum?
Eric would be better to discuss the provenance than I, since he's the one who curates them. But from my understanding, Major Winters gave or sold a number of these items to friends and collectors throughout the country in the years before his passing. And Eric has by and large acquired those items from those individuals.
I see. Now, this book came out late last year. How's it been doing? How's the reaction?
We've been really pleased with how people have responded to the book. And I think the best way that I can phrase it is how I discovered Major Winters through my own personal experience in researching this. Prior to me reading his letters and having the opportunity to give some historical interpretation to them, every time I thought of Dick Winters, I thought of the actor Damian Lewis, sure, that played him in the series. But after I helped write this book, that was no longer the case. I really saw Dick Winters for who he was, and I thought of him, the actual man, when I took him into consideration. And, for as wonderful as Band of Brothers the series is, the Dick Winters that it portrays is the Dick Winters as how his men saw him. And with these letters, we get a more intimate perspective about how Dick Winters saw himself. When we think of him, when we watch the series, we think of this tough as nails, resolute individual who never wavered under any conditions whatsoever. But in his letters, even though he was a sublimely confident leader, and he was fully aware of his abilities and was very cool under fire, we nonetheless see a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of humanity in his letters that we wouldn't otherwise get the perspective of. And I think the chief point there is that, as the war goes on and he evolves as a person, he becomes a little bit more cynical with a lot of the carnage that he has witnessed. And, by the time we get to the winter of 1944, 1945, when he and his men are in the Ardennes, there are times when he essentially admits that he doesn't think that he's going to make it. And that he very much doubts his survival. And that's, no discredit to him as a leader or a soldier. But, you see that sort of vulnerability, just taking into account the level of casualties that his unit was suffering at that time. And so it offers a really human perspective. It takes him down off the pedestal a little bit. And it offers something that is really profound, I hope.
Now, who was he writing to? His pen pal. Who was that? A friend from home?
He was writing to a young woman who was a pen pal by the name of DeEtta Almon. And he met her while he was in the pre-war Army. He was stationed at Camp Croft, South Carolina. And she resided in nearby Asheville, North Carolina. And it was largely by chance that these two individuals became friends. And he wrote over 100 letters to her between 1941 and the end of 1945. And he credited her in a number of instances, with being his sounding board, being a means of emotional support for him as he was going through some of these really difficult times. And, it's really a story about friendship above anything else. And this, too, is another fantastic component of Dick Winters' life that hasn't been heavily covered. especially in the series or in Stephen Ambrose's book. And so it's unique because it also offers a little bit of home front perspective, right, in addition to what was life like in Easy Company during the Second World War. And the really incredible thing is that when Winters came home, when he started a family, when he got married, they by and large lost contact with each other. And it wasn't until Stephen Ambrose's book came out in 1992 that DeEtta made the effort to reconnect with him. And so it wasn't until 50 years later that the two of them reconnected, and they maintained a very vibrant written friendship again then for the last several years of her life.
You say it's a friendship and a pen pal, but was there a romance as well?
Dick Winters claimed that their relationship was entirely platonic. Perhaps she had different aspirations. We're not entirely certain. But Dick saw her more as a sister type figure. That's really kind of the sense that you get in a lot of the letters that he writes to her. And and I really think that's the best way to sum it up, that they were a means of support for each other. And if Dick did have any romantic inclinations when the relationship began, those vanished by 1945. Like I said, chiefly because he didn't think he was going to survive the war, and he didn't want to hurt this good friend of his.
We'll be back to the conversation after this quick break.
It's really a privilege to be involved with a documentary about the USS Franklin. And the Franklin was something that I'd always been fascinated by. And then producer Joe Small and producer-director Rob Childs come to me and say, look, how about if you use your dulcet tones to tell the Franklin story? So as I began to look through the story, and as Rob and Joe kept sending me more and more material, this thing was peeling like an onion. I was seeing more and more and more of a really, really important story in naval history, and one which hadn't been told. So they had to throw a 2-inch heaving line on me to keep me from charging right down here to the studio and helping to put this together.
Captain Dale Dye narrates USS Franklin, Honor Restored. Available now on Amazon Prime. Now back to my conversation with author Jared Frederick. Now you're working on another book that's coming out next year, Fierce Valor, the true story of Ronald Spears and his band of brothers. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, so, as we were researching Dick Winters and Easy Company, it seemed like there were always questions emerging about this rather mysterious figure of Lieutenant Ronald Spears, who becomes the Easy Company commander after Dick Winters is promoted. And over time, my co-author, Eric Dorr, who's also working with me on this next project, he likewise has been able to procure a lot of Ronald Spears's documents, artifacts, correspondence with Dick Winters. And these items offered us a really intimate glimpse of one of the more iconic characters that is featured in the Band of Brothers series. And so, we did a deep dive into, his records, whatever we were able to find. We had the assistance of some family members. The historian Mark Bando, who you referenced a little bit earlier, was able to provide us some of his rich assortment of interviews that he conducted with men who were in the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment. And, I don't necessarily consider it the be-all, end-all story of Ronald Spears, because what we've done in some instances is that we've taken a lot of conflicting accounts about who this guy was and what he did and what he purportedly did, and we bring them into conversation with each other. And I think it's a really rich mosaic of recollections, memories, and we've tried to stitch together the truth as best as we can, going by the historical record that we have available to us. And so I think readers will really enjoy it. I think fans of Band of Brothers will get some really unique perspective on Ronald Spears. And some of the most surprising things had nothing to do with his World War II experiences, but what did he do before the war? What did he do after World War II? Those were some of the most fun and compelling chapters that we got to research and write.
There seems to be an insatiable desire for information on Band of Brothers related, commanders and figures. It's really an amazing community of people.
It has a long shelf life. There are not many books or miniseries that remain so consistently popular 20 years after their release. And the reason why I think that is so is history is best told as a story and not as a chronological conveying of facts or figures. And and even though the Easy Company is an exceptional outfit, and their story is not entirely emblematic of the GI experience during World War II. For better or for worse, they've come to represent that generation. Their story is accessible. It's one in which people can relate to. There's a colorful assortment of individuals from every walk of life. And it's a human drama as much as it is a war story. And I think undoubtedly that's why it remains appealing to so many people all of these years later.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Well, the book is called Hang Tough, the World War II Letters and Artifacts of Major Dick Winters. Jared, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to coming on again.
That's it for this episode. Thanks again for joining me. Next time, my guest will be Major General Mary K. Eater, author of The Girls Who Stepped Out of Line.
There are heroes, there are role models, there are people who came before me. And the style of writing that I used for this is to make it more accessible, I think, to a younger generation.
That's next time. And stay up to date with all the upcoming guests. Sign up for the Point of the Spear pipeline at robchild.net. I'm Robert Child, and this has been Point of the Spear.
Music licensed from audioblocks.com. Point of the Spear is produced by RSC Media Group.
I wanted to take a moment to thank our growing army of listener-supported members. You make it possible to continue our mission of bringing you the best military history authors, filmmakers, and movers and shakers. If you're not a member yet, it's easy to join. It just takes seconds. Scroll down to the bottom of this episode's description and click the support link. You'll come to our anchor page, click the support button, then complete the brief form. It's that easy. We're planning loyalty perks and giveaways to roll out over the coming months for our early supporters who sign on before the end of the year. So don't wait. Become a member today, and thank you for your support.